We're really keen in North Yorkshire that we have more community-led housing across the patch. The reason being that community-led housing is a fantastic way for residents of a community or a market town to think about building and owning their own affordable, high-quality housing. Community-led housing is all about building properties for rent or to buy just for the people in your locality, so people that live in your village or live in your town. Community First Yorkshire is one of 38 rural community councils. There's a rural community council in every part of England, so there'll be one nearby. As a rural community council, our interest is ensuring that rural areas have equitable access to services as their urban counterparts. We get involved in all sorts of things. So, for example, we're involved with broadband rollout, we're involved with services such as post offices, pubs and shops in rural areas. But really important to us this year is to focus on affordable housing in rural areas. And we've been doing lots of work with the Nationwide Foundation up in Yorkshire to ensure that we have a pipeline of affordable housing through community-led housing. As part of that project, we're working with other rural community councils across the whole of England, so we hope that this video will be helpful to everybody.
So if we're going to get to a supply of about 250,000 homes a year for the country, that means we're going to have to see all sectors in the house building community step up to the mark. And clearly, community-led schemes, community building, are a really important part of that, particularly in rural areas where developing local consent and local support can be a challenge. And we think that those sorts of initiatives could play a really significant part in meeting needs, particularly in local areas.
Community-led housing can provide houses for sale or houses for rent. Sometimes you'll sell one of the houses on a community-led housing scheme to cross-subsidise the rented accommodation. What's really important is to think about who in your community might need good quality affordable housing.
We are a community benefit society. We are effectively a community not-for-profit housing developer.
Some of the issues that I face as a younger generation in the UK was, if I talk specifically about York, so in York during 1997 and 2013 there was a huge rise in house prices. It went from 80,000 to about £200,000, so 120,000 over the space of 16 years. Salaries pretty much stayed the same at that time. I think 2017 the house prices now, average house price in York is about £246,000 and average salary is £24,000, so we've got houses that are over 10 times the local salaries. So it's put a lot of pressure. People on first-time buyers cannot access housing. It's particularly an issue for people that are key workers. Young people that are not paid well just can't find their way onto the ladder. So I fall into that bracket. I'm part of that generation of renters. I pay a lot for my rent a month, and so what that means is that me, along with lots of other people, I think it's about 2/3 of renters aren't saving for a deposit. So it's ever-increasing house prices and the ever-increasing rents mean that you actually can't find enough money at the end of the month to save for a deposit. So in terms of getting actually on the housing ladder, it's quite difficult. So I think a new approach is needed. The current format isn't working, especially for young people.
As time goes on, we need more houses, especially in the rural areas. Even ones and twos in villages can be the difference between a pub staying open or closing. Second homes, holiday cottages are all putting a real strain on the existing properties. So what we need to do is actually build some more houses in order to alleviate that and make sure we keep some young people, not just old people, within the areas.
So why do we need affordable housing in rural areas? We desperately need it, and politicians need to remember that they're responsible not just for the towns and cities or even the market towns, but for real rural communities, real villages, because in those places house prices are higher, the availability of homes is less, there are fewer homes to go around, we've sold so many of the council houses. If you can't afford the private sector rents, and they are very high, we need to do more for the local communities, for the families who have every right to be there, who have jobs there, who have families there, sometimes been there for generations. Why should they have to leave? Why should they have to move away to the towns and cities? We want to provide housing for those families and also for the older people who may be stuck in a 3-bedroom, even bigger, farmhouse can't move because there aren't any of those wonderful bungalows that we used to build on the edge of the village. The 6 bungalows that could mean 6 families housed in a family house somewhere else, and 6 older people in somewhere much more suitable than where they've been really rattling around very often in a place that has become rather unsuitable in older age. So we can sort out everybody if only we recognise that rural needs are just as important as urban needs.
Hi there, I'm Dave and I'm resident of Thompson Cottages. And this is Philip. Well, I work in the village, in the village pub, and my parents and my wife's parents live in the village, and it's great to live here because it's ideal for little ones, because there's a park and it's nice and quiet, and it's just a lovely environment to be brought up in, because I was brought up here as well, and so we'd like to carry that on with little Philip. It is an absolutely amazing opportunity to be given a chance to live here, really. There's so much more room than where we are now, and we can actually put things where we want them to go. We've actually got a proper little room for little one. When we were told that we were given the opportunity to live here, we were really happy, to be honest, because we needed more space. We do have we like to go camping and that kind of thing, so we need space to put things. And we've got little ones' toys, and we just need room, basically. We have moved all over the place recently. Well, probably past 6, 7, 8, 9 years, we've moved quite a few times. So hopefully this will be where we're staying now. So finally.
Well, my name's Martin Booth. I'm secretary of what's now called Hudswell Community Charity, and we've built these 3 houses in the village, which are now completed. We set about turning the charity, making it into an incorporated body so we could borrow money. And then once we'd achieved that, looking to get a proposal together to develop this land, to build these houses, planning permission, get a design built, consult with the village, try and get people familiar with the idea and deal with any anxieties people had. Having done that, we then got the funding together with a loan from the Charity Bank and a grant from Richmondshire Council and our reserves, which was sufficient to enable us to build these houses. And now that they're finished, it's great to see them. We've got 3 sets of tenants ready to move in, all meeting our criteria of being local residents, having very close family connections to the village. So it's certainly very satisfying for us to see this plan come into fruition.
There was obviously a need for more rentable housing or affordable rentable housing in the village. We had the land, the National Park and Richmondshire District Council helped us develop it, so we went ahead. I can't say much else except the houses look very nice and the builders have done a very good job.
The most important thing to do, first of all, is to establish a group of people who are interested in the idea. Get talking to local people, local councillors, local organisations, parish council, whoever it might be, to establish, is there interest in the idea, first of all? Have people got ideas about where some suitable land might be found, who might be suitable partners for such an enterprise? For example, is there a housing association that operates in the area already that might be interested in managing community-owned properties? And really just establishing that there is a project there before you even begin to think about whether to set up a charity or a cooperative or a community benefit society or a community interest company, all these various options, all of which are out there and are legitimate options for a community-led housing scheme, but they're really not the first thing that people need to be concentrating on. One of the things that I often say when I'm meeting organisations who are wanting to know what options there are for their governance structure for an organisation is that form follows function, and you can't know what type of an organisation you want to be from a legal point of view until you know what it is that organisation is going to be doing. So for instance, some groups will want to raise funds for a community-led housing project by issuing community shares. so that local people can invest money in the project and perhaps receive a small amount of interest as a reward for taking the risk and investing money in the project. Now that rules out some types of organisations which aren't legally allowed to issue shares and makes choosing another kind of organisation a much more likely option for that particular project. But you can't possibly know which organisation type it's going to be until you've made a decision as to whether community shares, for instance, is something that you're going to do as a project. So my absolute number one piece of advice to organisations to groups thinking of developing community-led housing or exploring community-led housing is really don't worry about the structure. Get the ideas in place, get the passion in place, get the energy in place first of all, and then once you know you've got something viable, that's when you can start worrying about what kind of organisation you should be.
All of the local authorities in North Yorkshire and the East Riding received some money from the Department for Communities and Local Government last year, which is called the Community Housing Fund. All of those councils through the Housing Board have decided to pool some of that money to make a resource available across the whole of North and East Yorkshire that communities can access advice from. It's going to be a hub for information for community groups, and that will provide almost a short list of the technical advisors that you will need through each stage of the process. So say legal advice or planning advice, architectural services, management services, or if you want to work with a housing association, all of those technical advisors would be part of that hub, and the communities would be able to access that advice, and also some overarching advice and resources around how to get set up, how to identify sites, how to do a housing needs survey, all that sort of thing will be available.
Hi, my name's Rob Tranmer. I'm a consultant with Start Regeneration. We've been commissioned to develop the hub for community-led housing for the North Yorkshire, East Riding and York partnership. The purpose of the hub is to gather all the information in one place so that communities can access the information very quickly without having to search around for all the information that's out there. We're also we've been asked to set up a series of consultancy panels which will help communities to develop their projects. The advantage of that will be that they, rather than going out into the marketplace blind, they can have a list of pre-approved consultants which they can choose from to help them support their projects and get their project developed and up and running.
In North and East Yorkshire we have a team of rural housing enablers, and their role is to work with parish councils and rural communities to bring forward new housing, particularly affordable homes. They're also now talking to those community groups about community housing models that they could look at. The rural housing enablers will help you go through the initial stages, understanding the requirements, understanding what limitations there might be on the type of site that you're looking at, and help you identify particularly the housing need in your area. So they might help you undertake a housing needs survey, which would help you understand the size, the type, the tenure and the number of new homes you might look at to service the needs of your own community. The councils across North and East Yorkshire are investing in a community-led housing hub, and that will provide advice and support to either existing groups or new groups that want to set up to deliver community-led housing. You can access more information about the hub on the website and get in touch with your local rural housing enabler if you want more advice.